Hello, and welcome to Buzz in the Ben, Michiana's award-winning student talk show. I'm Mason Cuevas from Riley High School.
I'm Drew Stoltz from John Adams High School.
And I'm Donald Rodriguez, also from John Adams High School.
So how you guys feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty well. The weekend is almost coming up, It's going to be really well rooted to be not being online that much, honestly.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Hoping for a warm next week. The cold has been a little annoying, a little too much.
Yeah, especially getting into spring. I'm just ready for some warmer temperatures.
And I'm ready to be less into social media, honestly.
Right, and then speaking of social media, Drew, you have our first story.
On Monday, Tesla and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk officially purchased Twitter for $44 billion. Musk shared on Twitter that his main focus is to improve the app and add new features, as well as make it a safe space for free speech and for people to openly express their opinions. He is also planning on making Twitter a private company. That means that Twitter can no longer be listed or traded on a public stock exchange.
That sounds like a very interesting story. And most definitely, I do not understand Twitter that much, how so many people can have so many conversations and yet have different opinions, right?
Yeah.
So, they agree on something, and then all of a sudden they don't agree.
Yeah, and that's kind of one thing that Elon Musk is trying to protect with that is the free speech aspect of it.
Right, because a lot of people like to censor each other out. Like, for example, let's say that a bunch of people are trying to cut down trees, right, to make the environment a little bit less woodsy, may I say.
Right.
And since that's the case, people kind of have to say that on Twitter or on any other social media platform. And so when they say it on Twitter, they get a bunch of bum rushes on them.
Yeah. And I mean, not only can they share public opinions or anything, but they can share nature stuff too.
Yeah.
True.
Like if they go on vacation or something, like nature pics.
Yeah.
I mean, Elon Musk, if you're spending $44 billion to protect free speech, you have to feel some certain way about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Free trees for everyone. South Bend Venues Parks and Arts is hosting an Arbor Day celebration on Saturday at Pinhook Park. That same day, the park will debut a new trail in partnership with WNIT based on PBS series Nature Cat. This year, the annual tree giveaway features 77 Indiana native trees and 300 saplings. They will all be handed out free of charge. The event also celebrates South Bend as a Tree City USA Award recipient for 25 consecutive years. The event begins at 10 a.m. Each year, the U.S. plants about 1 billion trees, but even with that amount, our country is 4th place for the most trees in the world.
Russia actually has the most.
I've actually heard that South Sudan has the least amount. And speaking of less, Indiana schools are scrambling to reformat their 2022 to 2023 school calendars. A new Indiana law limits the number of e-learning days a school district may have in a calendar year. Governor Eric Holcomb signed the bill into law in March. Starting in July, school districts may not have more than 3 e-learning days in an academic year. Teachers must also provide more than 50% instruction in a day to be counted as an instructional day. So yeah, I don't know about e-learning. For me, it was kind of a up and down slope because it kind of ruins a lot of what I've been hoping for. A lot of the classes that I had to take, I would oversleep, and then I would have to struggle along to try and figure out what I had to do.
Yeah, that's true. I almost did oversleep for a lot of my classes.
Yeah.
I will say, last year when we did have the Google Meets and e-learning and everything, it was pretty hard to make it to every class. I mean, have the focus while you're at home to sit there and actually get on your computer and sit there for 45 minutes and pay attention. It's pretty tough.
Especially when you have a lot of things around you that can distract you.
Yeah.
Movies, video games, science fiction novels. Yeah, and speaking of science fiction, robots fighting robots? No, it's not a science fiction movie. It's the Riley Robotics team in action.
This club is Robotics. What we do is we build a competition robot. It's pretty sturdy, I would say, pretty reliable.
The competition itself is every year it changes, but it usually involves 3 robots on an alliance, and they have 2 alliances that compete against each other. This year's game is transportation based, and they have a ball that's about 10 inches in diameter, I think.
And what it needs to do is our robot needs to pick it up and shoot it in a hoop or deliver it into a hub.
Didn't hit the hub, and the other one went in front.
Yeah, I just saw these.
First of all, we start off with prototyping. After we get done with prototyping, we kind of test our ideas. We have electrical, mechanical, and coding, so all of those have to kind of fit together in a nice little, I guess, puzzle.
I think it's really important because, like, if I were a high school student, I would have loved to have done this. And I think it gives the kids so much opportunity to try different things. A lot of them have never used hand tools before. We have drill presses, bandsaws, a grinder. We don't charge anything to join. It's a club, so you're not like taking classes or anything like that.
It's a pretty fun club. You learn a lot of stuff. You make genuine connections with the people around you. And overall, it's a pretty fun time.
As a member of the 1st Indiana Robotics District, the Riley Wildbots are ranked 50, having earned 15 points.
Kind of reminds me of Big Hero 6.
For me, it reminds me of Real Steel.
Both of those movies were really good. I liked watching both of those movies.
Both are very, very interesting in storytelling.
Yeah, and then don't you have something for us up next?
While I didn't do any robot fighting, I recently got to go on an adventure of my own to one of the newest national parks, the Indiana National Dunes. Take a look. When most people think about the Indiana Dunes National Park, they probably picture giant sand mountains and water. However, the 60-mile-long park actually has many different habitats, such as woodland areas. That's where I visited the Spring Maple Syrup Festival.
Welcome to Maple Sugar Time at Shellbrook Farm, part of the Indiana Dunes National Park.
Bruce Rowe, a public information officer with the national park, says that it's the perfect time to tap trees.
Every tree has some sugar in its sap. This time of year, as the sap is starting to be drawn up for spring to get that energy out into the branches to open the buds into leaves, that's when it has the highest sugar content.
One of the unique things about the Dunes Maple Syrup Festival is that the park rangers demonstrate the different ways maple syrup has been made throughout the centuries, starting with the Native Americans.
And it would have just been real good as far as the calories and such. Plus, it's like almost like money. They could trade that.
Native Americans then taught settlers how to make the syrup. The settlers then developed new techniques to make maple sugar.
As you can see, it looks mostly like water, because it mostly is. It's 98% water at this point.
At the end of the trail, visitors get a first-hand look inside the sugar shack. That's where maple syrup was harvested by the Schulberg family into the 1930s. It takes a tree of 10 inches in diameter to tap. It takes 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of maple syrup.
Pull down on the pail, make sure it doesn't fall out.
All right.
Okay.
Rose says attendance at the park has been up. While nearly 200,000 people visited the farm every year, the entire National Dunes Park broke a new record last year, welcoming more than 3 million visitors. He says that's why events like this one are important.
I think this festival shows us a little bit about our history, where maple syrup comes from, but also how even in small ways like maple syrup, our lives are connected to the land. That's one of the most important things we try and get across to folks in the National Park Service.
Reporting from the Indiana Dunes National Park for Buzz in the Band, I am Daniel Rodriguez. Did you know you can make syrup from just about any kind of tree sap? Besides maple, Native Americans in Indiana also tapped birch, walnut, and sycamore trees.
We could potentially tap trees in our own neighborhoods.
We could, but some tree saps are more bitter than others.
No, that's interesting. And staying on the nature path, Drew, you got to meet some cool animals.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I went with Bruce and Isaiah to check out what's new at the zoo.
I took a trip to the Potawatomi Zoo. There were so many different animals to see, from tigers to monkeys to goats or even the new pigs. But the main attraction, you can say, reached new heights.
So we knew giraffes was going to be a big game changer for this zoo.
A $1.5 million donation kickstarted the Giraffe Conservation Center.
And I was working with architects, we were talking to other zoos. I mean, there's so much that goes into having giraffes. You have to think about the sunlight, the air ventilation, how much space they have, all that kind of stuff, how tall the building is.
There are 4 giraffes at this exhibit: Kellen the youngest, Wyatt, Seymour, and Maximus, who will all be turning 6 later this year.
Our shyer of the 4 is Seymour. He kind of hangs back, but today he's been pretty brave coming out. But in general, he's been a little more shy than the others with aspects to training. And then Max can kind of be a bit of a butt sometimes, like a teenager. And then, yeah, Kellen's pretty brave. And, yeah, they all have their unique personalities.
Getting the giraffes here was the first step, but keeping them healthy and safe is a whole new process.
So training with giraffes is really, really important. That's why we have 2 zookeepers that are just dedicated to giraffes, because they have things like hoof trims. You know, if you have a horse at home, it's very easy to, pick up a horse's hoof and work on their hooves. A giraffe, that's going to be a lot more difficult to do. So we've got to be able to have voluntary participations.
We've been building like a trust with them since day one. That first, few weeks of them coming in and stuff, they were very kind of timid at first, just because everything was so new. They had new people that were working with them, a new building, a new environment. So it took a lot of time to build that trust. But yeah, now they're pretty friendly. They'll come up and interact with us.
This is great news for all the visitors who can't wait to get up and close with these beautiful giraffes. For Buzz in the Bend, I'm Isaiah Robinson.
The zoo is such a great place. One of my favorite places to go in South Bend, especially the new addition of the giraffes and the new exhibit. A lot of things have changed around there, and it's really cool to go see since I haven't been there in a couple years. The giraffes are really cool. I've never seen a giraffe in person, and then when I got there, we went inside. They were huge, like 3 stories tall. I was pretty amazed.
Yeah, especially being like giraffes are like so huge.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like the only thing bigger than giraffes could be like a dinosaur, like a
Yeah.
Bronchiosaurus, Diplodocus.
Yeah.
Kind of like Jurassic World vibes. And speaking of movies and stuff.
As we head into the summer, a lot of great movies are coming out to the big screens. Jalen brings us his latest review.
So Sonic 2 came out at the beginning of April, and I personally really enjoyed it.
So help me, Thomas! Sorry.
Sonic 2 is just the definition of a good video game movie. It's such a fun movie.
The source of ultimate power. We need to get
The story in this movie is amazing.
happening. Okay, quick version. Robotnik is back.
Each character in the movie is entertaining and extremely fun to watch.
Hey, you got a little something on your belly.
Jim Carrey as Robotnik is amazing casting. The action is creative and jam-packed.
You are really bad at punching.
There's absolutely no reason you wouldn't like this movie. If you've got the time to see this movie, I would 100% recommend it. Sonic 2 is such a good movie.
Yeah, one movie that I just saw a couple weeks ago was Dog with Channing Tatum. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, I've seen 2 really good movies here, Batman and Spider-Man. I thought those 2 were pretty good.
I didn't get to see many movies this year, though the most recent one I can remember is No Way Home.
Yeah. Yeah, and there was also one that I just saw, even though it came out a couple years ago. It was called Old. I thought that one was really cool, too.
Sounds interesting.
And thank you guys for joining us in this week's edition of Buzz in the Bend.
As always, be sure to click that subscribe button and tap the bell icon to get notified when we upload a new video. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Tune in to our 24/7 student radio at WETL 91.7 FM The Mix. Find out how you can become a WETL sponsor by visiting www.sbstvradio.org.
I'm Mason Cuevas.
I'm Drew Stoltz.
And I'm Daniel Rodriguez.
Have a great day.